Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Andrea Courey. Am I saying it right?
You did.
Okay. And where are you at right now?
Right now, I'm in Montreal, Quebec. So
Okay.
I'm up in Canada, and it's a lovely, snowy, wintry day.
It is here too in Ohio.
Mm,
So you're going to tell us about your near-death experience.
I am. I am.
So just
And
start
so much
where,
more. Yeah.
okay. Start where you like and take as long as you like.
Okay. Thanks, Peggy. I just want to say I really was honored to receive your request, and I just loved your story. Um, I think that's one of the most extraordinary parts of this whole journey is hearing everybody's stories and going to conferences and getting together live with people, and it brings a lot of hope. I remember the first thought I had when I came back from my NDE was, I hope I don't forget this. I hope I remember every detail. What if this whole thing is so crazy that it's going to be erased from my memory? That would be that would be the most awful thing. And then so from that moment on, the NDE was actually the most amazing thing that ever happened to me. So I said nothing. I did not talk about it for 25 years. Even though so many extraordinary gifts were coming to me and I was trying to process things on my own, I didn't know there was even an organization
Yeah,
like
I'm
I
the same way.
am.
25 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
25 years, you
Yeah.
too?
Yeah.
But yeah, and so it takes something to sort of push us to open up about it. And in my case, it was the passing of my daughter. And I knew beyond all doubt, of course, that, not of course, but I knew that there was no death. And I had glimpsed that love and that light. And I had been asked, do you want to stay? Do you want to go back? So when I was accompanying my daughter at the end of her life, it was like, okay, Andrea, the rubber really hits the road here. This is where, do you really believe this? Do you really have this much faith?
That's right.
Yeah, so it was something. But I'm going to go back to 1991. It was a December night, very snowy. Um, it was uh, it was the kind of NDE that I was prepared for this NDE. Okay, I woke up that morning and I had like a movie in front of me, and I know you've experienced that a lot, sort of
Uh-huh.
seeing a movie.
Uh-huh.
I saw the accident. I saw the whole accident. I saw the storm. I saw the car. I saw the make of the car and the color. I heard my husband scream. And then I got out of bed and proceeded to have my day, which was the day of my grandmother Emily's funeral. So I forgot completely about that movie. And we had the whole day and the whole funeral. And at the end of the day, we were at a reception at 10 o'clock at night. We were coming down the stairs of this house. There was the huge snowstorm. And we were walking, I say we because it was my husband and I at the time. And we were walking down a sidewalk with cars everywhere, only one tiny little opening. And it was behind us. I never saw it. This car lost control, jumped through right at that spot and hit us. And as I was flying through the air, I thought, oh, I've been prepared for this. So I got to just relax. I know I'm in good hands. I know I will be well taken care of, whatever happens.
Was it
And
like one of those slow motion moments?
totally. It was a complete slow motion moment. But I remember that it was a very busy boulevard. And I remember having the thought, oh my God, if I go flying through the air and hit the road, what if another car? The whole thing happened slow motion. No other car hit me. I slid about 35 feet down the road, and then I came out of my body. And that's the first time I really consciously remember doing that. I know we do it every night when we sleep, but I consciously looked down. I was about 9 feet above the ground. And that's the moment when I was like, wow, our consciousness is completely separate from the body. It was so clear. It
Hmm.
was so clear. And there was this body on the ground, And I was wearing that red coat. And the funny thing is, my grandmother Emily had told me every woman should have a red coat. And I had this amazing red coat that was heavy, heavy, heavy winter coat, came all the way down to the ankles. And that coat protected me. Do you know that I didn't break a bone? I got a run in my pantyhose. I was totally black and blue for a whole year, and I needed a lot of massage, a lot of therapy, a lot of all that stuff to get to rehabilitate my body. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So there I am looking at my body, and there were a lot of people in this house where we were at. So all these women start coming out of the house. Everybody's freaking out and screaming. And I'm trying to tell them, I'm okay, I'm okay. Don't just go back in and put a coat on, because there was this big storm. And I tried to talk to them, but nobody would hear me. Nobody could hear me. But I could see them all. I saw the whole thing. I saw my husband crouching over this body. I saw this poor woman who drove the car. To this day, Pegi, I do not know her name. I have never been able to tell her we are okay. And I thought that she knew that, we had kids and they were young, and she was, I'm sure, so traumatized by this event. So my wish has always been to tell her we are fine.
Did she get out of the car and
She got out of the car. The car was totaled. The car was totaled.
oh,
Yeah, the car was smashed. It ended up going into a big snowbank. My husband went over the front of the car towards the back, busted the windshield, and I went the other way, which was so poetic in a way for me, because that was a moment when it was like, okay, I know something has gone to a lot of trouble to save me.
uh-huh.
And I am not going to live a life without love. This marriage is over. And it was over. I
And your
looked at
husband
him.
okay from the
Yes, him
accident?
too. He banged up a bit more than me. No broken bones. They kept, like, in the hospital, they were taking us for x-rays and this and that, and they couldn't figure out how we didn't break any bones. But we didn't. And
Yeah,
yeah,
what you said there,
yeah.
something went out of the way to protect you. I think that's pretty profound
I just
because I
knew.
think we
Yeah,
all feel that way. Like I felt like like God defied the laws of nature to bring me back, to keep me alive till the next morning for the doctor to finally see that something was wrong. Because I
right.
died, and I begged to come back, and the answer was no. And then when we come back, we feel, maybe not in that moment because it takes a long time to process what happened, and then how do we feel about what happened, but yeah, ultimately, I think we end up there that not everybody gets to come back.
No, no, not everybody gets to come back. But I didn't think about it in terms of God defying the laws of nature.
Okay.
The way I processed it is the laws that we live by are
Right.
so limited. We don't even know what's going on. And so it was like, that was my quest, really, was to open up and learn more and read books and listen to
Exactly.
people. And I was so appreciative of so many great teachers who came before, who could open my eyes to what is really going on.
It's a science that nobody's teaching.
No, no. Yeah, yeah, it's a science. But there is a huge movement of people listening and watching NDEs. And I've attended a couple of conferences, and I've presented at IAN's conferences. And people are, oh, and there are a lot of people at these conferences who haven't had NDEs. They just want to be in this energy and they want to soak this in. And they too are realizing, hey, there's a lot more going on here, and I want to know. I want to lose that fear of death. Yeah.
I just read a comment, and it wasn't on my channel, somebody else's this morning, but I get comments like this too, but it's just fresh in my mind from today. And she said she had watched somebody's video. I think it might have been yours that happened to read a comment. And she said she just found out that her breast cancer come back and that she's dying. But she had been watching these NDEs for so long that she's not afraid.
Amen.
And I
Yeah,
thought, oh, good job, people. It
there
don't
you
have
go.
to be my story. It don't have to be my podcast. We're all, when we're all sharing these and other people are sharing them, like I'm like happy if anybody wants to contact my guest or I'll say, hey, I had this good guest. I'll tell another podcaster friend, do you want this one? And then some people are like, oh, she had an NDE. I don't want her on my show because then they'll watch her show. There's a lot of competition. Like, come on.
That's the human side. That's the
Yeah,
ego that kicks
yeah.
in there. Yeah,
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 and we can
yeah.
all be that way, but yeah, it's like the effect it's having on people is amazing.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, yeah. So it's funny because one day I was alone in the house, and this was when I first decided I was going to talk about it. And I said, okay, I'm going to just make a video and put it on YouTube. And I'd never really done that before. And I put it on, it was 5 minutes. This is what happened to me. And at the end of the day, I checked the video. And there were 72 views. I said,
Oh.
72 views? That's amazing. 72 people have heard this story.
Right.
And then a few months, and because I really didn't want to get into the whole thing of followers and people and views, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to stay out of that, um, just beyond ego and everything. And then I found out like there's like 20,000 views. Then it's like, wow, isn't that cool? Sharing this with so many people and helping people. So I realized that what you're doing is important. It's really important. It's bringing the word out. And
Because if I
yeah,
only shared this with my local community, nobody would hear it because they're either so Christian that I'm a liar, this isn't biblical, stay away from her, or they're more towards atheists and don't want to hear that Christian talk. So either way, they're going to avoid you like the plague.
right.
And so now we have, these podcasts, the internet, and things we can get on and reach people. Like there you are in Canada. How else would we ever get to talk to each other?
Exactly, exactly. No, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So you know what? I'm going to go back again.
Okay.
And I'm going to take you back to the moment where I'm like 9 feet above my body. It's chaos all around me. People are all in the road. And I see that light. And I just say, and I feel great. I have no pain. I decide that this light is where I'm going. It was like so enveloping to me. It was so warm and beautiful. It just attracted me. And I just went. And then this figure appeared to me. And it was very tall. I never saw his face, but I do think it was Jesus. And I think that that's the idea, is that it's in keeping with my beliefs, even though I'm not at all a religious person in any way. Um, and he addressed me by name. He said, Andrea. I was like,
I'm in trouble.
that was my first, yeah, yeah. I like, my name. I felt like, how could he know my name? How could I be, I mean, I'm so insignificant. How could how could I be addressed by
And
name?
we're talking Jesus here,
We're
right?
talking Jesus here. And I have thought about that moment a lot, about how we don't feel we are worthy. And that's a big thing in our human lives, to
Yes.
get to a place where we realize I am worthy. So he addressed me by name. I'm like, and he said, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And I knew exactly what he meant. And I said, I have 3 little children. They were 1, 3, and 5. I said, I got to go back.
Mhm.
And then he asked me again, a second time. And I said, even if every bone is broken, I must go back.
Mhm.
And I was thrown into a vortex. And I think I remember you talking a bit about that speed and that spin and that movement. I mean, we don't know anything about everything that's going on here. When you think about how your astral body can get thrown into some kind of a cone and move, like it's like a tornado. It's just
Yeah,
like a
mine was
tornado.
straight up fast like a rocket.
Yeah. But like there's some kind of need for speed, right?
Yes.
To merge that back into the physical body. And when you're out of the physical body, there's no pain. But when you finally, I remember being in this thing and I knew I had to hold on for dear life. my hands, I had hands and feet, and they were holding on to the edges because this thing was so powerful. I was afraid it was going to just like spin me out into I didn't know where.
Now
And
yours was coming back. Mine was going too.
interesting. Now mine was coming back. Mine was coming back. And that's what happened. It slammed me back into my body. And it was hard coming in. My body was in pain. But I woke up, I started crying. They piled us into this ambulance, the two of us in an ambulance with the neck brace and the whole deal. And I remember just very carefully looking over at my husband. It was like hard to turn, you know. And I looked at him and I thought, okay, this is done. This is done. And I asked him to leave, and he finally did. It took him a few months. We were hobbling around, with crutches and all that. And I remember that my 1-year-old, I could not pick him up. My arms, everything was bruised. My body was black and blue. And I have to say, what saved me was castor oil. It was the key. Warm castor oil, massaged everywhere, castor oil packs. I would probably be a total wreck right now if it wasn't for that. As well as, of course, the yoga and the massage and all these things. But I had to take some time and rehabilitate my body. So he left, and almost immediately, my grandmother, who had just passed and whose funeral was the day of our accident, started talking to me. And not only did she start talking to me, now this too, Peggy, took me a long time to process because I could feel her with me. She was with me. My grandmother had some really bad eating habits. She had lived alone for many years. So you know how you get a little slack, with the way you eat with your mouth open and you burp and this and that. I started doing all these things. I was like, wow, what is this? And she started talking to me. And one day, this is like something like what happened to you, where you just kind of walk into a place and there's an answer in there for you in some way or other, whether it's a book or a person, or when you saw that child in the ditch, which was incredible. I mean, when you think how it led you to your work with children, which is so fundamental to the plan of your soul,
I know. And when I got older, I look back, well, right after my 5-year-old drowning, how I was led into the woods and, the flower story. And then I
Yes,
thought later, wait a minute, I made that connection. It was just like that. I
yes.
was led. Here I am, 25, just lost the twins. And I hear this crying of this, and nobody else heard it, And I'm like, I was taught to be led right after drowning and didn't use it until then, 20 years later.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, it's always spirit time. So, what you and I think of as 25 years to spirit is, okay, we are going to teach Peggy this, and we're going to teach her patience, and we're going to teach her courage, and we're going to teach her hope, and we're going to teach Peggy to value herself, and on and on and on. And that's what happened to me too. My grandmother actually said to me, Andrea, I am going to teach you. And she said all these different virtues. And she even told me to go get her books that had been put away after she passed and to read them. And so I tried. I got these books out, and they were full of notes and, in the margins. And I mean, she had digested these books for decades, and I just couldn't understand them. And the books were the life and teachings of the masters of the Far East. Oh, your Christian neighbors would not like those books very much. The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, Baird T. Spalding, and there's like 5 books. And I tried. I said, Grandma, I tried, but I just like it's just way beyond me. So I put the books away. But a couple of years later, I was ready. So everything is spirit time. Yeah. I like now, to me, I just like everything is spirit time. Whatever happens, it's spirit time. It's kind of a letting go and acceptance of that. So my grandmother started talking to me and leading me and teaching me. And it was hard. It wasn't easy. I was a single mom with 3 little kids. And yeah.
What's funny is this morning, just about an hour ago, I don't know why, but I didn't know your grandmother's name was Emily, but we have a adopted daughter. We named her Emily. her name was Miranda, Michelle, and I changed it to Emily Miranda. And I
Ah,
was talking to my husband. I seen that her biological parents, now that she's older, still call her Miranda on Facebook. She
okay,
goes by Emily still, you know. And
okay.
we were just talking about this name, Emily, and it's so strange that
And here we are.
Emily is
Yeah,
your
yeah,
guardian angel,
yeah,
your grandma.
yeah, yeah. Like a nice, a lovely intersection. Yeah, yeah. So she did. She started teaching me, and all these gifts started coming too that I didn't know what to do with and how to use. But one day, my grandmother knew, way before I knew, that my ex-husband was going to go bankrupt, declare bankruptcy, stop all child support. I was actually working for him too. So I had no more income, no more child support. And she said to me, go get this picture of me, go make a logo. We're going into business. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? I'm like, Grandma, I could go get a job like, sailing or selling or something. And, I could have a car and I could have an expense account and I could like have a proper income. And she's like, no, no, we're going into business and we're gonna make granola. I'm like,
I was
my
gonna say,
grandma,
what is this going to be, fried chicken recipe or something
yeah,
from grandma's
exactly.
chicken?
It was grandma's granola, and the
Huh.
company was called. I remember totally the day when I went out for a walk, and I'm like, okay, so what do we call the company? Andrea's homemade granola, Andrea's delicious oven baked. She said, no, silly, we're going to call it Grandma Emily's granola. And I thought, it actually has a great ring, and it's a
Uh-huh.
perfect name for a granola company.
Yeah.
And I had the recipe, and I had always made it for my kids, and she had always made it. And I started in my kitchen, and I didn't really know what to do, but she led me, and things would happen. I would meet somebody just like that, right? No coincidence. And they'd say, I need a great product for this huge breakfast that I'm doing. And I supplied the granola. And then that's how I turned just a thought into a real business. But I followed the nudges, Peggy. That was the key. And it was hard, and it took a lot of courage. Starting a business is risky anytime. But when your dead grandmother says, go make a label, we're going into business, and you have no money and 3 kids to support. And I did it. I did it because I trusted her, and I knew she would not lead me wrong. And you know what was cool? The business started like at home, right, in my kitchen. And then eventually I got one commercial kitchen and then another commercial kitchen and then a bigger and bigger.
Uh-huh.
But Friday afternoons, I loved doing this business. I would eat, sleep, and breathe it. But my grandmother was always close. Like Friday afternoons, I'd kick out my staff at 2 o'clock. I'd say, go home. I'm paying you till 5 o'clock. And they would love that.
Huh.
And my grandmother and I would walk around the factory, and she would tell me, Andrea, I always wanted to be in business. And then she would give me her advice. You got to do this, you got to not do. And she would also really give me a hard time when I did things wrong. So fast forward to about 18 years later, and I now have a company employing 16 people. I'm selling granola across the country. I sell to all the major hotels and the airlines, and I worked really, really hard. And lots of sacrifices that go with it, too. And I was really exhausted. So it was December of 2015. And I said, Grandma, I gotta go. I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. No, it was December of 2014. I found a buyer just like that. You make, right? The universe will bring it to you. Honestly, if I just ask God for what I need, it always comes. It may not be what I think I want, but it's always what I need. Always. Like people would ask me, how do you hire people? How do you find good people? What do you do? I said, I just ask the manager. Like I have an amazing team that manages my business. And I just ask them, I need this. I need an office production person. And sometimes they would send me somebody who would be really dishonest too, so that I would work that muscle and I would learn discernment and how to hire somebody who had their heart in the right place. So I didn't always get things, I almost never got things easy, but I always got what I needed to keep going.
And sometimes we don't learn the lesson if it comes easy.
No,
It's got to be
no,
really
we
horrible.
don't. We don't. We don't. That's right. That's right. So I said, Grandma, I gotta get out of it now. I used to go into the office at 4:35 in the morning, so keen, so happy. I'm exhausted. And this gentleman showed up and wanted to buy the business. And I sold it to him. I sold it to him in March of 2015. And 1 month later, I was away. March 2015, I put a knapsack on my back. I went to Italy. What do? You go. I just wanted to be free. And I'm away. I've been gone 1 month and I get a phone call. Chloe is sick. You have to come home. And I did. And I came home in April of 2015 and I took care of my daughter until she passed in February of 2016. So I had almost a
What
whole,
was wrong with her?
she had cancer.
Oh,
So I had a whole blessed year. And I looked at it as the most incredible blessing because if I was still running my business, I would not have had the time to be with her 24/7. I would not have been able to take care of her
you say her
the
name's
way I
Chloe?
did. Her name is Chloe. So
Beautiful.
it is a nice name. I loved it. I still love it. So,
I have in my Bible, I didn't ever name my twins. I was only 2 months pregnant when I had the two pregnancy, the NDE. And so one day I wrote in the Bible, I thought, oh, I need a name for them. I have the date of birth there. And so I wrote Chloe and Zoe.
oh,
And our youngest adopted son, of course, he didn't know that, but our youngest adopted son had a daughter and named her Zoe.
you know what? I did mediumship for a while because the skills came to me. I mean, the gifts were there, and I went to school and I went to the Arthur Findlay College in England. I went twice, and I learned a lot about what was going on. I learned about walk-ins, which is what my grandmother had done with me, and I did mediumship, and I learned that even miscarriages, these children are with us. They are with us. It's quite extraordinary. They came in just for the appropriate amount of time. Um, but I used to do readings for people, and sometimes I would see kids with them. I'm like, well, there's these two little kids. They're right there. And then I would find out that, yeah,
Mhm.
they had
And
had,
I wrote down a few names, like what I call them that. I also wrote down hope and faith.
oh,
And they
no.
say this, and so years later, we got a call about a sibling group bill for adoption, and they said, and there's twin girls,
Oh,
Samantha Hope. Well, it was Samantha. I changed their middle names. I kept their original first name, Samantha and Stephanie. I kept that, but I changed the middle names to Hope and Faith.
how did you do it with all the children? Wow.
I couldn't do it now. We have 3 dogs and a cat, and that's my
That's
limit.
enough. Yeah, that's a lot. I have one dog. It's enough. I love her, but yeah.
But we get tired, just like you're saying, you got tired of the business. We get older, we get tired.
Yeah. Well, you kind of know too. You gotta listen. I know that for me, when I started walking in the morning kind of backwards, like, oh, I can't do this anymore, it was time to go. And I knew that this one man who showed up was going to be the buyer. And because, I mean, he was sent to me. I didn't put any ads or contact any. I just spoke to one friend who was in business and I said, this is what I want to do. Next thing I know, I get a call. So I knew this was the deal that was had to be made. And he didn't trust me. He didn't believe that the business was what it was. So I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to leave town for a whole week. You can talk to all my staff. You can open every drawer. You can look at every order. You can learn about my machines. I mean, I could have created a competitor, but I knew it was so hard to do what I was doing that it wouldn't be that easy for him to just start another granola business. So I left. And I said, the only thing you can't do is you can't talk to a customer. And when I got back, he bought the company. Yeah.
Good move.
And then I was able to take care of Chloe. Isn't that amazing? I
How old
was
was
able to
Chloe?
take her. She was 28.
Oh,
Yeah. And it was January now of 2016. And this was the day she went into palliative care because when she started falling and that I couldn't take care of her anymore. So I was giving a lecture at the university And because I was also teaching at this point, everybody thought I was this amazing entrepreneur who had created this company out of nothing with a new product that nobody had heard of. When I started making granola, nobody even knew what it was. The only way I was able to sell it was I had to give a lot of it away. And I did it with the hotels. That's how I started. So the chefs would see people come to the buffet table and they would leave all that cheap stuff and eat my good stuff. So they would say to me, either I buy your stuff or you're going to make, whatever. That's how I made the business grow. But I became a lecturer at university for entrepreneurship.
Wow.
But it was years before I actually told them that it was my dead grandmother who got me into business, that I had really no clue about anything. And that just as each hurdle would come, we would discuss it and find solutions. So
That's
I was
funny
given,
because
yeah,
some people think we're crazy because we tell us NDE stuff, but we're not that crazy that we didn't start telling it 25 years ago. We waited, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, I needed,
because we're
yeah,
not that
yeah.
crazy. We knew what the repercussions would be. And just like with your business, you didn't tell about how you got the name right then. We're not that crazy. Like you think we're crazy, we're not that crazy. Like we have enough sense to know that
But
this
you know
isn't
what
a
it was?
time.
More for me, Peggy, it was so precious. It was
Yes,
so incredible. I didn't want anybody to belittle it.
right,
I didn't want anybody to kind of make me feel bad.
right.
I had this precious gift, and to me, that was everything. And I didn't need to share it. Like I
Yeah.
didn't need other people to say, "Oh, you're crazy. You must have been imagining." No,
I'm
I
picturing a
know,
bird
I
sitting on
know.
an egg.
Yeah, that's true.
We're
It was
to
an
keep it
egg that took
quiet and still and safe.
25 years to hatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took 25 years. That's a good way to look at
And then
it.
what hatches is out there is, let it take flight. But for right now, we're just going to keep it quiet and inside and safe and sit on it.
And sit on it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But learn too, because so many things were happening. And it was Chloe. Because what happened was I had all these skills and these gifts that were developing. So it wasn't that much of a stretch to imagine that Chloe would start talking to me after she passed. And the first thing she did was the night she passed, I was in her room, in her hospital room, and she said to me telepathically, "Mom, could you leave?" And I took a picture of her because I knew it was finished. I knew this was over. And so it's weird, I know, to take a picture, but
I did that when my
ah,
mother-in-law was passing. My husband was feeding her. I knew it was her last meal. I just instinctively knew, and I took a picture. And she looked at
ah,
me, and I'm thinking, is that rude of me? Is she thinking, excuse me, can I die here without, but I did,
yeah.
I want, this is a precious moment.
Yeah, you just know. So I went in to this waiting room, and it was February, and I just sat on a chair with my coat and my boots and my purse and my hat and everything, and I just actually fell asleep. It was the middle of the night. And then about 2 hours later, I got hit by this tsunami of joy. This massive thing came and hit me like in the gut, and it woke me up. And I knew it was done, you know? And then I went back into her room. That was tough. And she said to me, like, one of the first things she said was, "Mom, thank you so much for being so calm. It's helped me to go. It's helped me to leave, it's helped me leave my body."
Did she have children?
No, but when I was giving that lecture at university on the day she went into palliative care, I thought, I want to heal. I know she's not going to last long. And I want to be in a place of beauty and peace near the water. I needed the water to heal after she passes, just like for a month. I'm going to treat myself to a special place. And so I found this little house on the waterfront. And that was actually January 16th. Chloe passed on February 18th. So that was 2/18. And the place that I rented on
218
January
of 16?
2/18, 2/18 was the date of her passing,
Mhm.
February 18th,
Of what
and
year?
2016. That's right.
Okay. I just
And
caught that because my birthday's February 16th. So I'm just
oh,
like picking up numbers.
okay. Okay, yeah, numbers. Yeah. Oh my God. Do they ever lead us, eh? Numbers really lead us. And the address of the place I rented was 218.
Wow.
I didn't even realize that till like 2 years later, which is crazy. But I rented this little house and I'm in there and I'm writing her a letter and I say, Chloe would love this place. It's it's perfect. It's 400 square feet. It's one room. It's just right on the water and it's the perfect place for me to heal. And I have this little wood stove, crackling and going crazy in the corner. And I'm writing her this letter and I get up to put the letter in the fire. And she says, Mom, she says, don't burn that letter. And then she says to me, you are so easy to find. It's a joke. I said, what do you mean? She said, you're light, Mom. When you pray, you emit light. And we see your light. But there's something I just remembered. Do you know how you said you asked and you were given
Uh-huh.
given sort of a blueprint, what to follow, what to do? Like
Yeah.
you were given the words you needed to inspire you?
Uh-huh.
I was too. When I heard that, I said, yeah, that happened to me. I was on the floor crying my eyes out with my three little babies. And I said, Lord, I need some help. I need to know how I'm going to get through this. And this is what I was told. Now, Chloe
This
and
is in
I,
when you were contemplating divorce.
no, this is after he left.
Oh,
I
okay.
was alone. I was
Okay.
alone. And so I'm on the floor of the kitchen, and this is what I get. Four things. The first one, have patience, and you will have everything you want. And the second one was avoid frivolous issues. That was an easy one actually to work with, because no matter what would happen all the time, I'd say, is this frivolous? Is this not frivolous? That was really good. The third one was meditate every day. Almost impossible, right? With raising kids and working and everything. But then I decided that you could meditate while you were washing dishes or driving a car. The fourth one, this was the toughest, love yourself. So those were the four bits of advice that Spirit gave me loud and clear. I wrote them down and I never forgot them. And I always tried to at least have one or two happening in my life. If I couldn't love myself and I didn't understand that, I could try to have patience. And I could certainly avoid frivolous issues by getting clear, is this a frivolous issue or not? So that really helped. Man, if we ask, Spirit is there to help.
I have heard, and it's usually men, and I don't know why, that they think it's wrong when somebody says love yourself. Oh, they just start griping, that's just wrong. And I think loving yourself is the best way to get out and away from hate towards others.
That's it. That's it, because then that's all you emit. That's it. Yeah. Oh no, it took me a long time to understand what does that mean. To be able to say, I am worthy, I am worthy. That's loving yourself. Yeah. So I'm in this little house and Chloe says, Mom, open your computer. So that's the little laptop that I'm talking to you on right now. And the coolest thing started happening. This was like 4:30 in the morning. She would wake me up. She would dig her chin into my shoulder, which she always used to do. And I would feel it. And I would open my computer and she would start talking to me. I would close my eyes. She said, close your eyes. I would close my eyes and type, and I didn't make a spelling mistake. Is that cool or what? I think that's one of the coolest things of everything. Not a spelling mistake. And so we started having conversations. And she said, we're going to write a book. I'm like, I don't want to write a book. I'm a McGill professor. I'm like doing my thing. People think I'm so cool. Like, I don't want to write a book and have my sanity questioned. And then she got upset with me. She said, wait a minute. I didn't come this far and do all this for you to give up on me now. And I said, okay, whatever happens, let's do this. And so we wrote a book. And this is the book. And it's called Conversations with Chloe. And that's my lovely one. And if anybody wants a book, I send everybody the PDF for free. So that, because now, besides uh, being very active in IANS, I'm active with a group called Helping Parents Heal.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, do your email that I sent your Zoom link, do you want me to use that email in the description for
Sure.
people to contact you?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. I do have a website with an
okay,
email, but that one doesn't work as well.
okay,
Gmail works the best.
okay,
Gmail works the best. Yeah, anybody can contact me and everybody can receive this book.
okay.
Um, and they can share it. So when I joined, you know what's amazing? Even talking to my grandmother, who, by the way, when Chloe passed, she said, I'm taking a total back step back, I'm backing away. You won't hear me anymore because I don't want you to mix us up. I want you to know that you're with Chloe and you're talking with Chloe. I said, okay. She has since come back occasionally, but this is for everyone to receive. And the book has helped. I think about if I had been lazy, if I had said, oh, I don't want to do it, it's too hard, it's too costly, it's too long, whatever, all the reasons to talk yourself out of something. What an amazing thing I wouldn't have been able to share. Yeah. So one thing Chloe said to me, she said, Mom, you're not allowed to edit my words. I'm like, you want me to write a book, but you don't want me to edit your words? I said, they better be perfect. And what's cool? We talk to each other exactly the same way we talk to each other.
To this day?
No, not anymore.
Okay,
No, no, this is while we were writing the book.
okay.
And I asked her, I said, where are you? Like, how come I hear you so perfectly? And how come I feel you so perfectly? And, she's all making comments about what's in the room and like seeing everything. And she said to me, and I have shared this before, she said to me, Mom, let's say this is the universe, okay? This is the whole universe, and you're here. She said, I'm right here. I'm right here right now. But when we're finished this, I'm going to make my way. And she did. And it was hard because that was like another death. It was like another leaving, another grieving. But what I wanted to say was, even with all the talking with my grandmother, and even with all the discussion with Chloe and feeling her, and I still grieved. It was hard. And this group of parents that I found, she's basically the one who helped me find them, helped so much. Just to hear other people's stories and to hear how other mothers were navigating things. And then I learned about something called signs. I didn't know really. I mean, I knew my grandmother had always been talking to me, but Chloe started sending me all these incredible signs. And so I wrote a second book. And this one was all the moms and their stories. And it too is available. Anybody wants it? I have it on PDF. And what I
What's it
would,
called?
it's called Magical Thinking Not. Because the professions consider that if you feel that you're talking to anybody in spirit or receiving communication, that they consider it to be magical thinking. In other words, it's not possible. It's just your mind creating this magical type of thought. And in my book, one of my friends who lost her children in a car accident is being assessed by a psychologist. And he says, he says, she seems rather normal, although she's very prone to magical thinking because she claims to hear her children and to converse with them and to be guided by them. And that's why I called the book Magical Thinking Not, because we are conversing with them and we are not only being guided, but we are helping them. That's what Chloe taught me too. She's like, Mom, when you advance, when you continue to grow, when your consciousness grows, it helps me too, because you and I are co-creating this together. So they grow as we grow, which is really cool.
And I think God's greatest blessing to humankind is creativity. I mean,
Right.
the inventions, like you invented something and you started a business out of nothing. And I know other people that their child has passed and they have this communication like you, and they are very successful, self-made people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking of my friend, Esther, she is 89 years old, but she has a long history. I mean, she's self-made, taught herself how to do screenwriting, and she did like the CHIPS program, and I can't remember them all, but all famous, TV programs that was going on, and for a movie called Tiata, and she's all self-made. And
Yeah,
when her son passed, Dean, she wrote a book too. I think it's to Dean Love Mom or something like that. But she's like you, communicates with Dean. And so she thought after Dean died, Dean wanted to be a screenwriter like her. And she couldn't help him with that now. So she got a friend and they just toured all over the country teaching screenwriting to anybody that wanted to learn. And it was a very
amazing.
popular book. She told me the other day it's not now because it's like outdated, the information she did back then. But
Yeah.
it's like if people want to say that's crazy, then how come these people are so self-made professional, law-abiding citizens? We're not out here getting arrested because we're crazy or doing crazy things. We just, this is something that in our personal life that we take ownership of. This is the truth. And I know a lot of people are going to say I'm crazy, but and I think
But a
God
lot
gives us that
aren't, Peggy.
creativity.
Yeah, a lot aren't. A lot aren't. A lot of people are listening. A lot of people are listening. And yeah, it takes a little bravery to come out and sort of reveal what you know and who you really are. But you're right, the creativity is the key. You know, I while I was taking care of Chloe, one of the things that helped me, because towards the end of life, they sleep a lot. I would watch her sleeping and I would think, what is she thinking? You know, she knows the end is near. Like, she doesn't want to talk about death. I mean, so what is she thinking? And I started writing a play. And I wrote a play that I think is would be so cool to be out there and on its feet, and but I have never been able to get it any traction. And so that was my creative outlet to help me
I
while
should
I was
set you
taking care
up
of her.
with my friend.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, this book would be an amazing movie
Now,
because
what's that called again? That one, first one.
it's called Conversations with Chloe.
Okay.
So what happens is I rent this little 400 square foot house and it's on a beautiful large property. And the owner of the property lives in a big house next door. And we fall in love. Of course we fall in love. Like it was,
This
the
is
whole thing was a setup. It's crazy.
this is a fiction story, you're saying?
No, this is what really
Oh,
happened.
oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So I said, when I rented, I said, I'm going to stay a month. I stayed a year and a half. And then I left because there was different things that happened and I had to take my space. And I didn't talk to this gentleman for 3 years completely. We didn't talk until one day we did, 3 years later. And now I live, since COVID, I live in the big house with him,
The big house.
in the big house. And I still rent the little cottage. Yeah. And I do a lot of sound healing in there. And I have friends who come, moms who have kids in spirit. They come and spend a few days and heal because all those things that it brought to me, the closeness to the water and the beauty and the tranquility, it brings to everybody who comes here. So there you go. How cool is that? I
It's pretty
know.
cool.
It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like the creativity. I was just told that one day. I mentioned it here a while back that God just said to me one day when I stepped out, it's still dark, take the dog out, and I just heard something like, God doesn't like, why do we have depression? God doesn't give us anything without a rescue. Our rescue from depression is creativity. And I had turned around to bring the dog back, and I stopped and looked at my house. It's enormous. It's unfinished and everything, But every time I got depressed, I started this after I lost the twins, I would draw house plans and then would build that. And then later on, I get depressed about something else and start drawing house plans and we'd build that. And now this house is 1,000 square feet.
Oh my God. How many?
8,000.
No.
Yeah. And it's a lot of us unfinished, because we're older now. It's like we're tired. Like, who's going to finish this? And
Oh, that's
and do we
funny.
want to finish it or do we want to sell? And so I look back and I think some people might do their art and do it like this. Mine's all right here. You can
There
just
you
look at
go.
my house. It's like, well, she was depressed about this when she built this. She was she built that.
Isn't
And
that
and I still
amazing?
do it.
Wow.
I get
Yeah.
in mood, so I just want some solitude. It may not be
Yeah.
depression. I just want some solitude, and I
Yeah.
start. Okay, I want to turn the garage into this, and I
Yeah.
want the windows like this, and I want this here, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. You're right. That's your way. That's your tool. That's your gift.
and my
Is
son Jeremy says, "Mom, stop building on. Finish what you got. Don't build on anymore." And I'm thinking, I'm building on. I can't help
But
myself.
what's so amazing is that you could use that skill and that love and that gift, and you could build houses for homeless people. Like you could do anything with it, you
I
know?
have this knowing, and I've had it for years. One day something's going to happen, and this house will be used for the community.
It
Like
should
a
at 8,000 square
tornado or
feet. Yeah,
something. Everybody here's plenty of room. I got plenty of pots and pans. I got lots of stoves. I got everything for to handle the whole community right here.
it's a community. It sounds to me at 8,000 square feet, it's like a home for many people. Yeah.
And
Wow.
I grew up poor, so I don't like to throw away anything.
Right.
So I have clothes from 1980s right here in my closet, because they're still good, right?
Sure.
I have given a lot away. I have thrown some that were rags because I can't throw anything. My boys, they have brand new furniture. I don't want any more. They set it outside and the truck comes and gets it, or somebody pulls over and gets it. That's where they live. Like, don't throw those doors away. They're changing their door. Don't, I'll come, maybe I'll put them in my basement.
Right.
Mom.
Waste nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
And
That's
I
a
don't know
beautiful thing.
how people leave leftovers on their plate when they go out to eat either. Like, you got to
Yeah.
put that in a box. If nothing else, give it
Yeah.
to your dog.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that's off a
Yeah.
tangent, but
Everything is sacred. Yeah. Don't waste anything. Right. I totally agree. Yeah.
so
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Well,
I got
I
off
go
on
out.
something.
I go out in the garden. That's what I do. When it's like I need to do something, I go in the garden. It helps me, especially I do a lot of sound healing. Actually, I have my bowls are here just because I crowded them all onto a table here. I have all Oh, look. I don't know if you could see the water. Can you see the water?
Yeah,
It actually looks white today.
I
But on the
see
other
the
side,
ice along between the white,
yeah,
the
there's
ice.
white and then there's a stone wall and then there's white. And that's just water. So, um, yeah, I do sound healing. And sometimes when we're done, we go outside, take our shoes off, and just walk in the grass. And that's the best.
I
Oh,
meant to ask you, and I keep forgetting, the divorce after your NDE, did it have anything to do with your NDE?
absolutely. I mean, I was a coward. I probably would not have divorced him because I felt we were married and it was till death do us part. But then when that happened, I said, okay, wait a minute. I do not have to stay. Oh, and guess what? I did die. I'm looking at this. Actually, it's Chloe who told me there's a page here where she says, Mom, it wasn't a near death experience. It was a death experience. And I'm like, you're right. Because after that, I said, this is over. I no longer felt I needed to adhere till death do us part, and I felt I had died, and the new me was being born, and he had to leave, and he did. But of course, he left easily because of different things that had happened over the course of the marriage. He didn't leave because of the NDE. He just didn't give me any kind of argument.
My husband heard years ago, he's my second husband, that a lot of people get divorced after NDE,
Yeah,
and he's made a point to be supportive because he didn't want us to split up because
nice.
and I'd already had the NDE 10 years before we met, but I was just coming out about it a few years after we were married, and he heard that and he's like he tries really to be supportive, but I think sometimes I take advantage of it. I get talking and I don't shut up, and the poor guy just wants to go in the other room and watch his hunting channel or something.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, okay, cut.
Yeah, people like you and I, now that it's like the valve is open, we want to share it, and you feel that joy in you when you talk about it. I mean, I have repeated it now so many times since 2016. That's when I finally came out. It was after Chloe passed in 2016, and she's the one who pushed me. She said, "Come on, Mom, you can talk about this and help other people." And every time I talk about it, I love talking about it. And I'm so grateful that I've never forgotten a detail. That was my biggest fear. That was my biggest fear, that I would forget. And I have never forgotten. Yeah.
My husband got a cancer diagnosis about a year ago, and he's doing fine now. But, there for that year, like I didn't want to talk about death. It wasn't fun anymore.
Mm.
And like you say, after you said something a while ago, very, very big connect, I think what you said. And I'm like, that's exactly right. I can't remember what you said, but it was something to the effect of, I don't know, taking it seriously. I can't remember, but I thought, yeah, because it was like, okay, this is serious. And I always felt
Oh,
that even
yeah.
before then. I felt,
Yeah.
we're talking about death and we're making light of it when there's people that's actually on their deathbed watching this or losing someone at this
Yeah.
moment, and it's not funny. And
No,
then
it's
so
never
it got
funny.
very real with
Yes.
his
But
diagnosis.
but you know what? I work with people who are going through cancer treatment. I do sound healing with them, and I help them get in touch with the cells of their body and bring in the light, and it's done them a lot of good. And what I found is that I can work with them with I have no pity. I just have great compassion. I know this root. I've had cancer too. I know this root. I know the root, and I can be with these people without crumbling. And that's what they need.
I
They
know.
need
Like
support.
I think you said your daughter didn't want to discuss the
No,
dying. And my husband's that way. Do
yeah,
not come to him and be sad and scared and tell, I can't tell him my fears. I'm afraid I'm going to be in this big house without you. I'm afraid. He's like, you got me buried and dead already. He don't
that's
want
right.
that. He's going to be
No.
fine.
But you know what? I started doing something that really helps when any fear comes up about anything. It just came to me one day. I was walking and I just was told, Andrea, all you need to do in life is breathe in the Holy Spirit and breathe out the Holy Spirit. So, of course, I started thinking, well, what is the Holy Spirit? But it was, no, don't go there. Just breathe in the Holy Spirit and breathe it out. So the moment you have a fear about your husband, just breathe in the Holy Spirit, just give it to the Holy Spirit, breathe out the Holy Spirit. And then I just found out that there was a gentleman by the name of Emmett Fox who in 1931 wrote something called the Golden Key. And that was like the precursor for the whole AA movement because he was involved with them at the beginning. And you know how AA has been the most extraordinary organization. You just, no matter where your brain is going, to fear, to worry, to panic, to anything, about anything, just go to God. That's it. Breathe in the Holy Spirit, breathe out. It's amazing. Things resolve themselves. And then I start reading this golden key, and that's what he says. He says it's so simple, people don't think it's possible, but it is. You know what? Try it. Next time you worry about your husband, just try it. Yeah. I wish I had understood that and accepted that and adopted that so many years ago. But I'll tell you a little story. I don't know how much more time we
Oh,
have,
it's
but
funny. Go ahead.
I gotta tell you a Holy Spirit story. This is crazy because it's so fun when it materializes itself so perfectly. So I'm here alone in this house. It's this past summer. My partner's away. He has a boat on a lift right here. And there's a huge storm. And I call him up and he's about 2.5 hours away. And I said, Johnny, this storm looks really bad. And I'm worried about the boat. And he says, no, no, no. He says, the water has to go up a foot before the boat would float off the lift. Well, guess what? The water goes up 2 feet. I get up the next morning, no boat. And I look outside and the boat is hanging by a tiny little thread to this branch of a tree that's out on the waterfront. And I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, what do I do? And the first thing I hear is, Andrea, don't panic. Go get the longest rope you can find. And there was a rope. He had just bought it. And instead of having it on the boat, which is where he wanted it to be, it was in the house. I get the rope, I get all dressed. I put my jacket for my daughter on because I like to bring her with me too. And I get in the water and it's crazy. It's like rushing and high. And where I used to be able to walk is rushing, rushing water. Anyway, I get to the boat and I start trying to find a way to pull the boat over to the dock. Can't do it because it's completely against the current and the waves and everything. So I ask, and it takes me about a half an hour, and I figure out that I can use that rope, put it through a big opening in the bow, and swim to the dock and cleat the boat. But now what do? I can't get the boat to the dock. It's all stuck in the trees. So I look at the boat and I see the license of the boat on the side. You know the numbers and the letters for every boat? There's always a registration number. Mm-hmm. I say, Holy Spirit, I need you. I said, I know this is crazy because all the wind and the waves are pushing against where I am, but I need two hands. I need your hands to push on those letters and push the boat out so that it totally clears all of that, and then I will pull it in. And I was like razor sharp, focused on those letters, and it's like I didn't doubt that the Holy Spirit was going to do it. It's crazy. Everything stopped. No wind, no wave for like 2 seconds. You know, like when you say time like goes still? Down. Shit, it was crazy. All of a sudden, woof. And the boat just moved. I was like, oh my God, this really works. I got on my belly because it was heavy. This is like a multi-thousand-pound boat. And I pulled the boat towards the dock, and I was able to save the boat. But I couldn't have done it alone. There was no way. There was no way. I mean, I couldn't. Yeah.
Those moments when time slows down. I have had so many times where I have fell, and as I'm falling, like one time I stepped out of the shower and my feet come up and my head's headed towards the toilet. And I thought, I'm going to break my neck. I'm going to, crack my head open. But time slows down enough that I hear someone say, pull your head up. So when you hit, you won't hit your head. And so when I fall, I got my head jerked clear back instead of down.
Yes, yes.
And other times I just fell and my head's hit before I even knew my feet were in the air. But it's the times that slows down that really makes you stop and think later.
Wow.
It almost feels like,
your
like car
guardian angel
accidents.
is right there.
I've had talked to people that haven't had NDEs, but they've had experiences where they was almost in this car wreck and like their car went right through, like it was invisible. Like, how did that just happen? It's not pop, but it did,
Yes.
Like we've all had something, even though it might not
Yes.
have been NDE, we've all had something happen that we knew was miraculous, defies the laws of nature.
Yes.
And we know that has to be God.
That's it. And we know that we have free will, and we know that our guardian angels won't really interfere. But when our lives are really in danger, they will speak up. That happened to me. I was on a beach in Mexico, and it was the most beautiful day, like not a ripple in the water, gorgeous hot sun. And I wanted to snorkel to this reef. And I heard, Andrea, don't go in the water. Danger. I said, that's impossible. Look at this day. So I go out there and I look down, and there's like this huge 9-foot shark right below me. And I was like, oh, I should have listened. And I turned around and I just tried to not show fear or feel fear. And I said a prayer. If you are with him and in his constant care, no harm will ever touch you. God's love is always there. My grandmother taught me that. If you are with him and in his constant care, no harm will ever touch you. God's love is always there. And I just said it and said it and said it, and I got to shore. And I know that was my guardian angel talking to me, and how stupid I was to not listen. So now I ask and I try to listen. And I know one of the best ways for me to hear them is just to be still. That helps a lot. Just be still.
My grandmother was my mom's mom. Always made sure us kids got to church. And me being the youngest, I went through the longest. And then she would take just me as I got older and the other kids were gone. And And I appreciate that, but she was a very cold-hearted woman, very strict. My
Mm.
mom used to call her a Bible thumper and
Oh
say
boy.
she turned me against religion. She wanted nothing to do with religion because my mom's crammed it down my throat my whole life. She wanted nothing to do with it. And but I forget where I was going with that. Um,
I said that prayer. That made you think of it.
yeah, that's what it was. But yet at the same time, she was always saying things like against witchcraft and like palm reading and ghosts and all that was like the devil. And so when I got into, hearing things about near-death experiences, and I had my own interactions with my ex-mother-in-law that passed and some things like that that I wasn't about to tell anybody because it was wrong. In me, I was brought up that was wrong. And I didn't want to throw in my NDEs with ghost stories because I'm trying to get people to believe me. What I'm telling is the truth. And I'm going to say that. And like, oh, well, here she is. We know now she really is a liar. Like people throw in UFOs with stuff like, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And, and then some will bring in Bigfoot and like, well, here we really go. And
Yeah.
so, um, but it all comes down to what for me, what all come down to is knowing myself. Am I an honest person? Am I remembering this correctly? Could I be wrong? Could I have, created this? And then later you get these confirmations or things similar happen again or whatever. And like it's hard to
Yeah,
know
it is.
what's real and
To
what's not
release the
real.
doubt too. It's hard to release the doubt. That's the number one thing is to let go of doubt. Let go of doubt. One day I was at a conference for helping parents heal, and I was doing sound in this room with many, many chairs and a huge, magnificent presentation on the wall of over 900 kids in spirit. And my daughter's picture too was up there with all these other magnificent kids. It was so amazing. And at one point, all of the hardware, the computer, everything that ran the room froze. And I was supposed to be in charge of this, and everything froze. And I was panicked. I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I look up at the screen. Out of over 900 pictures, guess whose picture is up there on the screen?
Chloe,
Mhm.
Chloe.
And of course, other people were in the room. They're like, oh my God, isn't that Chloe? And I said to her in my head, I said, Chloe, how did you do that? And you know what she said to me? She said, Mom, you make it so easy. You don't doubt. You don't doubt. And right then and there, it was like I got struck by a thunderbolt. I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to help other people release doubt. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think about, the spirit stuff. Like I really believe this is what she said and this is what happened. And then I got thinking later, well, when I drowned when I was 5, when I was outside my body, I looked down and saw my mom and my sister and I felt their emotions. I looked down and saw my brother. So I knew what it was like to be a ghost and watching my family. So why would I think that that doesn't happen to others when they pass on? And then with my second NDE, when Jesus took me and went in the future and saw my sons, and I've often thought, was that the next day? Was that the first time they heard that I had died? When was it? Because it was in the future. It never happened. I couldn't understand that. And I thought, well, I had went in the future and saw my sons. So I think we can do that because I experienced that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And
How can we think that we know it all and we see it all with these small three-dimensional bodies? Like there's so much more. So much more.
yeah.
Mm.
So but still, I always do this. Like I'm checking my pulse. Like, this is my truth, my truth teller, my 8 ball, whatever. Like, okay, are you making something more of this? Why would you do that? Because the last thing I want to do is lie. I've always been like that. The last thing I want to do is lie. I think to bear false witness against God would be the worst thing a person could do. And so when some people are on and they're telling things, and one friend of mine, she has this elaborate, very famous, popular story. And then I start catching her so many lies and from the first day I met her. And I didn't want to believe it because I really liked having her as a friend. because we live close together and we're both NDEers, and I don't have any more NDE friends local. And finally, I told her one day, okay, I caught you lying about this, and then about this, and this, and this. And she says, what does it matter? And that's
Ah,
what I did. Like, you know, what do you mean? What does it matter?
yeah,
You're saying
yeah,
you're a Christian. You're talking about God and Jesus and all this stuff. And you're admitting, which I know is not true, because I cut
right.
you so many lies. You're going to lie about this, and you're going to lie about that. And she's, what does it matter? I got a lot of books to sell.
Oh,
I'm like,
you know
and you
what?
don't even
You know
care that
what?
he just said that to me.
But you know what I learned, Peggy? It's okay because everything that we think, say, and do is known. Everything, 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 as you know, everything is known. So every lie is known, every good deed, every little good deed, every huge, everything is known. So it's all there as like the tapestry of our life. So whatever she is choosing to do, for whatever reason, she is going to atone for that at some point. Everything is
Yeah.
known.
And some people thinks it's okay as long as it's like reaching the goal of like bringing people to Christianity, or some of them's trying to bring people away from Christianity with their NDEs. And so they think if they're lying, it's okay because they're furthering that goal that is more important than the truth.
Hmm.
And I'm
But
like,
your integrity is
it
everything.
is everything.
Your integrity is everything. It happened to me just the other day. I was with my son, and this man at the cash, he over gave me change. So, I mean, when you have adult kids, like they don't want to hear any advice from you. They don't want to know anything. They just, but there we were at the cash. And I said to him, look, he's given me $10 too much. So I gave it back to the man and I looked at my son. I said, my integrity is worth way more than $10.
Yes. And those things make you have self-love,
Yes,
which is the most important thing you can have.
yes,
Because it does feel good. Ma'am, you dropped your purse.
yes,
Excuse me, somebody left this beautiful, expensive looking bracelet in the bathroom in the doctor's office. Or, all these
yes,
things
yes,
and you
yes.
feel so good. And if you have kids with you, what a good example. And
Uh,
then you see them later doing the same thing and you're so proud that you've instilled that.
yeah, yeah.
Like, what a better
So
gift.
to lie about anything, even little things. But who am I to judge? Obviously, I don't know this person's story. I don't know why they do what they do, but I know nothing is worth compromising your integrity. Nothing.
Yeah.
No way.
When before I started sharing my story, because I was afraid, be out in public, because I was always shy, in speech class and anything. Um, and I got thinking one day, and I never forgot it, that I imagined, there's our creative mind, I imagined when I die the next time and in front of God, and would he say to me, did you tell anyone? I begged to come back and raise my three little boys. I was
Yeah,
told the answer was no, and I begged, and then I ended up back in a wheelchair, and they said it was the biggest two pregnancy, the hospital ever saw, and all this, so it was like this miracle, this gift, like a lot of people aren't given. A lot of women don't get to raise their children, because they
I
die,
know.
and I
Yeah,
thought, would God look at me and say, "Did you tell anyone?" And my answer would be, "No, I didn't want to look crazy. They would call me a liar. They would." And the
yeah.
shame I would
Worried about,
feel,
yeah, yeah.
that I just pictured it so real, like it was really
Wow.
happening, like the shame I would feel, the hurt, like I would hurt God's feelings, that I was too ashamed to tell everybody what he did for me. And at that moment, I thought, I don't care if even
Right.
my own children, who I dearly love, disown me because they think I'm a crazy liar. I will do this
And
for
you are not a
God
crazy liar. That's
because
right.
I
Yeah.
owe him. And my ex-mother-in-law used to always say, Peg believes in paybacks. Because if anybody did the slightest thing for me, I was away doing over more for them. You know, I'll go down and do their garden, weed their garden every day because they did something nice for me once. I'll go down, reupholster her furniture because she did something. I was just that way. I clung to any little nice thing anybody did for me because I grew up so abused.
Ouch.
And so when
Yeah.
anybody did anything
Ouch.
nice, it was like magnified.
Oh,
Like,
oh,
oh, they
yeah.
did this for me.
Oh,
And I
wow.
just couldn't do enough for them in return.
Yeah.
And I think, I've carried over, like, I've got to do this for God. Like, when's
Yeah.
enough? Okay, you did enough. No, it's not.
You know, it's funny you say you get to that place and God says, you know, did you share? And I have that same vision, but for me, I get to that place and God asks me, did you love? Did you love? And so I'm like, okay, every opportunity is an opportunity to love. Did I love? I want to be able to say yes. I loved, you know, I loved as much as I could love. Yeah, did you love? That's the question I get.
I get, did you forgive? Because I have a hard time
Oh, yeah, it's
with
hard.
I have been like hated my whole life. It's like
Yeah,
I like drew attracted like people
yeah,
like I hate her. We got to get rid of her like everywhere I go. And after a while, I didn't do it for many decades, but after a while, I started feeling taking on that hate. Oh, I hate them.
sure.
I hope this
Self-loathing.
happens to them.
Yeah,
I hope, and they're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
yeah,
I am being hateful, wishing bad things, wish they'd die, right? I wish that whatever. And I'm like, wow, how do I get rid of that now?
yeah. Yeah, you
And
ask for help. You know, there's a phrase that's so good, and it is because I used it many times. Bless your enemies because they are the instruments of your destiny. Like they're the ones. It's not the ones who say, "Oh, Peggy, I love you." No, no, no. They're not the ones you're going to learn from. It's the bullies and the ones who are rough on you and the ones you have to move past all that and forgive. So they are the instruments of our destiny. Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
yeah,
tough. Yeah,
yeah, like I
it's
said a
like
while ago, we don't learn from things that went easy.
no, no, no.
We
When you're
learn
on the
from the
beach and you're lying
hardest.
on the beach, no, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
that's not
something
what
happened
you're.
25 years ago, and I didn't think I'd ever get over it. And I'm still battling with it, but I couldn't even begin until I started to forgive
Right.
the ones, and there were so many involved. It was a conspiracy pile on that happened
Wow.
to our family. And like, oh, where do I even begin to, for,
But you
and
know, you
then,
can give it all to the Holy Spirit. It's like you don't even have to figure out how to begin.
and
Just
then
give
again,
it.
we have to keep some of that though for our safety for the next time. So we can catch on sooner than we did before the situation got so out of hand. Because I get blindsided. I make excuses for people I forgive after they did so much to me. I keep forgiving. And then I wonder why they do it. Well, when did I ever stop them? I just kept loving them. And I even had kids, that we adopted say, how much more do we have to do to you? And that day I started to wake up. I'm like, oh, wow. I am stupid, aren't I? She
Learning
is basically
boundaries,
saying you are so stupid
learning
for
your
putting up
boundaries.
with
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
How much
yeah,
more do we have to do?
yeah.
She's, don't you know we just want to be on our own? Well, they weren't 18 yet, but that's what they wanted. So they were going to do anything they could to me so they could be on their own.
To try to get you to kick them out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And if they'd run away, I'd go get them.
yeah.
Right. And they just wanted to go back to their biological family.
Yes.
The
All of
drug
them. Yeah,
addicts, the
yeah.
alcoholics, the people that had too much fun partying to raise these beautiful kids they gave birth to. That's what they longed for. And I had to accept that biological bond and
Yes.
not realize it's not anything I did wrong.
No.
It's that they have that bond since they were born or they were little.
Before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they got to go see if the grass is greener, you know.
yeah.
And I had to learn to say best of luck to you.
Oh
That was
boy, did
hard.
you that what a role you played to foster kids. Oh, huge, huge,
Yeah,
huge,
because I
huge.
wanted to be my children, and I wanted their children to be my grandchildren, and
Right.
they're their child again, and
Yes.
they're calling them grandma,
Yes.
and they're getting them into drugs, and they're losing their custody of
Uh,
their children because they're doing exactly what they did. But you know,
yeah.
let them go, right? And live. If they come back
Yeah.
to you, what's that saying? If
Yeah, yeah. If you
let them
let it
set
go,
them
if it
free,
comes back, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and then you're at the point. We're past the coming back stage. You're in your
Yeah,
30s. Hold
yeah.
on, I'm good.
But mom, you have 8,000 square feet. You've got to have room for me. Yeah.
I have the room, and I could not ever tell anybody no.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's a
it would be with new
fascinating,
eyes, though.
but you know, that is actually an incredibly fascinating project. like on the horizon is this amazing home built with so much love and inspiration and all these rooms. I mean, there's something there,
Well, I
that's for
started
sure.
building on because I thought when the kids turned 18, they'd be going to college, and I wanted to have their own room so they wouldn't be with their sisters. And it would be big enough that they could have a little, their desk and everything. I pictured them, like our biological kids. I have three, my husband has two, that they would, stick around and build their life. No, uh-uh. Get me the hell out of here. Because if you stay here, I expect you to work or go to school. And if you go to biological, hey, you don't need to finish school. I didn't. Here's some
Right.
heroin. Try that. Hey, do whatever. And then
That
so,
hurts. That's hard. But
yeah.
you know that saying, if you can't be with the ones you love, love the ones you're with. There are other people that would love to be in your orbit, and they
Yeah.
will present themselves. Yeah, the universe always provides. It will bring them to you.
And all said and done, it all worked out for the best because my three boys shared their whole life with every kid coming in and out here, 60 foster kids in and out, 10 of them were adopted. And so they always had to share their vacations, their Christmas,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And they don't have to share now. Their
yeah.
kids is my only grandkids.
There you go.
They are my boys, and they're all about them. And it's
Nice.
not split up to everybody
Nice.
else with
Yeah,
everybody's problems. 'Cause my
right.
boys are very professional, doing very well, and they need that attention. And so I'm like, you know what? I think this all was meant to be.
There you go. That's it. That's when you get to that sweet spot, when you get to that point, wow, that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's it. This is what really was meant to be. After all of that and all those years and all of the love you gave. Mm,
Would I do
amazing.
it again? I don't think so.
Now,
I don't think so. I don't recommend it.
no, too tough. But that's why you did it when you did, and now it's a different stage.
But
Yeah.
I do have my days where I start thinking, I want to foster again.
Ah.
My husband would say, hell no in a heartbeat. We got three dogs and a cat. We're good.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And grandkids too. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So, yep, they're doing great too. So my oldest granddaughter, she's third in her class and she's going to college. She wants to told me at Christmas. I said, "What are you taking?" Because she was undecided before. She said social work.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, that's what
Beautiful work.
Granny did.
There you go. Yeah. She has a conscience. Good, good. Social conscience. Nice. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. So
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you had two kids?
I have three.
Three? Okay.
I have three. I have an elder son. Chloe's in the middle, and Daniel is my younger one. And it's funny, because that's a chat I have with parents initially when they first lose a child. They're like, "So how many kids do I have?" I'm like, "Well, you still have as many kids as you always had." You know, that to me, I mean, I always have three, and I always talk about her in present tense. You know,
So, yeah, I don't want to
and
answer that because we always said 14. And then, that was nine
that's
adopted. We adopted together. So I have my three sons. He has his two girls, or his two girls quit speaking to him. That's the times. It's like the times of now. Parents are not respected. We're like, you disagreed with me, I'll never speak to you again.
but they'll come back. That
So
you
it's
know
like,
what?
okay, how many do we have? Well, my husband says we have our three boys.
Right.
And so I'm happy with that. I'm happy I have my three boys.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Mm.
So now my three boys, the youngest is adopted. He's biologically my disabled sister's son. We got him when he was two. So he's actually makes 10 adopted because he was a nephew. So I have two biological boys. So that's what, and then out of that we have 10 grandchildren.
Wow.
So
Yeah, it's a lot of beautiful ones to love.
yeah. And
There
so
you
after
go.
having this huge family, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't all we got.
Well,
We
you
still
still
got a
have a
lot.
huge family. You have 10 and 3. You have 13. There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah. Plus 3, plus they have their spouses and those families and oh no, it's It just keeps going, the ripple effect. Yeah. You know, I really have enjoyed this has been more of a conversation than anything else.
I
And
just
that's
let
so
it, like
nice.
spirit take us where it wants to go. I just let
Yeah.
the conversation roll naturally.
Yeah.
People say, "Can you send me a list of the questions?" And I don't have any questions ready.
No.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know
Same.
who's still with us after an hour. It looks
Yeah,
like
it's a long.
a lot of
Yeah.
people do though. Somebody will say, I was on the edge of my seat, clear to the end.
That's great.
Okay. There's something to be learned somewhere for somebody. So
Sure.
I appreciate
Yeah.
your time. Is there anything else
Thank
you wanted
you.
to go over that you didn't get to? Because I know I go off
No,
and do.
I just want to maybe reiterate that I am really glad that I wrote this book with Chloe and that I went through the effort. And a lot of parents with kids in spirit have written books. I thought I was the only one. I thought it was totally unique and amazing and that everybody would love this book and I was completely wrong. Nobody believed that in fact I had actually had these conversations with her until I met all these other parents. And I said, wait a minute. A lot of them are having conversations with their kids and writing books about it. So I encourage people not just to um, listen, but also to read some of these books. And it's quite amazing because you also hear a lot about what is going on the other side and what they're doing and how busy they are and how they're growing and creating and continuing to expand. There's no like rest in peace thing. They are working and growing, and it's really fun. I mean, I ask Chloe, like, what are you doing? And she tells me all kinds of things. So I encourage people to, yeah, anybody who wants it, I'll send them the PDF and read some of the books some of these parents have written. They're really worthwhile.
And I didn't realize I didn't put you back on gallery view. Um, and who's to know that a lot of people talk about end times. My mom says, "Oh my gosh, they've been talking about that since I was a kid before she passed away." Um, and a lot of people think this is end times because all things happen politically or whatever. I don't know, but sometimes I wonder, what if God is, say, thinning the veil, they call it, for such a time as this, to help people get there and
Yes,
lessen their fear of dying. Maybe
yes.
something major is going to happen, and instead of all this hysteria and fear, we're all going to be holding hands and singing Kumbaya or whatever, and
And lessen our
we're
fear of
good.
living. It's to lessen our fear of living because we are living. We are still here. And it's like this incredible, great gift to be here. So put your focus there, away from fear. That's where that golden key of Emmett Fox's really makes sense. Just bring in that trust and that faith.
And we can preach that, but when this happened to my husband, there was days I didn't want to get out of bed for days. I
Sure.
was frozen in fear, worried
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
If it was me, hey, I'm good to go. I've been there. But to lose someone you love, as you know,
Sure. It's hard.
that's
Yeah.
worse than getting that diagnosed yourself.
Sure it is. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
So, okay, well, I will get this sent out to you later today.
Well, thank you so much, Peggy. And you know, one last phrase I just want to share with everybody is really all is as it should be. I know it doesn't feel that way. I know it doesn't seem that way. But if we can keep that phrase front and center, all is as it should be, then we can just accept and kind of roll through things and move through things. And we won't contribute then to the chaos and the hysteria. We'll contribute to the peace.
Yeah, I have learned, like that saying, that God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't,
Yes.
when I can't, because sometimes, like, okay, I could really stress over this, but can I change it?
No.
A lot of people
Right.
try to pull me into politics, out of this country. I'm like, there's nothing I can do about that.
No.
I am not going to spend all my energy because there's nothing that I can do about any of that. So I can only focus on what I can do right here
Perfect.
in my little place in my own way.
And if we all do that and we all just kind of want to increase that energy and that love, it does make a difference. It does. And we all have a way, like you say, it's all about creating. Some people use sound bowls, some people do podcasts, some people bake cakes, some people make granola. Like,
So I was going to say, some people make granola.
yeah, it was as much a labor of love as what I do now. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I wasn't really wanting to do this show for about a year, I didn't do very many. And I'm getting back to it now. You're like my third, like, okay, I'm back in this.
Good, good.
Because my husband's getting better and it's
Yes.
looking promising. But I got thinking, why do I want to do it? Is there anything I want to do differently? Because I was starting to get can't think of the word, little I don't know. I see the people that's lying, or I see the ET stuff, or some of the other, like, oh my gosh, what are we producing here? What? And I had to know that I was making the world a better place by doing this.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I thought, well, how I feel when I'm doing it. And I feel like how you're feeling, we're feeling energized. We feel like we're putting good out into the world. When I
Yes.
switch this button, like I will when we say goodbye in a second, I'm dancing around the house and I'm running down my husband. That was great. I'm really happy. I'm on cloud nine
Exactly.
for a while. And
Yeah.
and then when I put it out there and then I see comments, oh, I love this, and it makes me feel, well, what more can we do? You
Exactly.
know,
And that's a lot. And that's a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, beginning that one woman I think it was on your video on somebody else's channel, and someone said that she just found out her breast cancer is back, and because she had been watching these, she was happy to go. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
like we
Yeah.
can do that.
Yeah.
Because in a way, this is all kind of like not what we're saying are stories, but I set on my lights and my camera, and like the little girl in me that was like 5 years old, and other kids were at school, and I would be in front of the mirror with a microphone and I'm telling the news or I'm playing out, I used to do that. And so it's like it's play for me.
Yes.
Not what I'm saying, not the stories, not the people I have on, but there's a little play. This
Sure.
is
It's
fun, right?
fun. It's
It's
like you're
dress
on a
up house.
stage.
Hey, we
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
So,
That's great. That's so
okay.
great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too, Peggy.
Good luck to you and
Take
Johnny.
care. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.